Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. My name's Katie and I make book-related videos every single Wednesday. And first, I apologize if the lighting's really weird, but this is the only time I can film today, so we're just gonna have to deal with it. But today I'm gonna be reviewing PACHINKO by Minjin Lee. But first, I did have a quick question. So now that grad school, I only have, 40, 50 more days, which is just like blowing my mind, although I cannot wait for it to come to an end. I'm trying to decide if I want to do sort of a grad school reflections type video where I just think of whatever I personally want to say, or if I want to do a grad school job internship sort of Q&A video for you guys. I probably wouldn't do both just because a lot of the content would be the same. So I'm just curious, would you guys prefer a Q&A where you can ask specific questions, or just I can film a video randomly and just talk about whatever I think is important? Anyway, as I said, today I'm going to be reviewing PACHINKO by Minjin Lee, and in this book I've been looking forward to reading for quite a while. I saw so many 5-star reviews, so I was really anticipating going into this. So I'm going to go through a summary, pros and cons, and of course all of it will be spoiler free. So PACHINKO follows a Korean family from essentially the early 1900s until I want to say the latest date is 1989. The story starts off, and this is not a spoiler, it is the very beginning of the book, but a young girl, hopefully I'm not pronouncing her name wrong, but Sunja, she lives in Korea in a very small village with her mother and father, and she becomes unexpectedly pregnant, which causes a few issues, as you can imagine. So it kind of follows her family tree until 1989. I was really excited going into this because, one, I was really excited to learn a lot more about Korea and Japan. I also just love kind of these familial sagas in general, like for example Middlesex, or for example Homegoing. So in terms of what I liked, it was really interesting to learn about the conflict and a lot of the racial issues, I can't say that, racial issues between Koreans and the Japanese, because previously that was something that I honestly did not know very much about. And some of the aspects of this book, although not all of them, which I'll get into in the cons, really did emotionally impact me, and when certain things would happen, I just felt emotionally gutted, which is what I assume the author wanted me to feel. And in terms of my favorite section of the book, I would say the middle of the book, like that middle 150 pages or so, because this is about 500 pages, it's pretty lengthy, and that middle 150 pages or so I did really enjoy, kind of right when we're starting to get into the points of view of Sunja's children. So if I had to kind of sum up my thoughts of this book really quickly, I would say it was a good book in the end, but I did have quite a few issues with it, which I'll get into now with the cons. So if I'm just being completely honest, around page 150, maybe 200, I was about to DNF this book. I just found the pacing of the first chunk of the book incredibly slow, and that's one reason it took me such a long time to get through this, because I would put it down, about to sneeze. The window is open and just pick a thing that's outside, I'm probably allergic to it. You know how when the doctors like do all the little pricks for things that you might be allergic to, and then if it bubbles up, you're allergic to it. When they did that when I was little, just my whole arm just blew up because I'm apparently allergic to everything except food. Anyway, the main issue I did have with this book was the pacing. I thought the first chunk of the book was quite slow, although I personally found it slow. I would say structurally, the first chunk of the book was probably the best, just kind of objectively. The middle portion I really liked once we got into the perspectives of Sunja's children, and then the last third of the book was just so incredibly rushed that I just didn't feel connected to any of the characters. And I'm not saying that a book needs to be formulaic in terms of its pacing and it just all has to be exactly the same, but I was just really bored in the beginning, loved the middle, and then at the end, I assume at least the author wanted us to feel connected to all of these characters she kind of threw at us within the last third of the book, but I didn't, just because there was such an abundance of new characters during the last third. I just really feel like this book could have been a 5-star read for me if it had just had kind of a much harsher edit. I felt such a connection to Sunja and one other character, I would say, but other than that, I just didn't feel for a lot of them, just because I was never fully introduced to them, and the time jumps were just kind of placed so strangely that I felt like the author would spend so much time on unimportant aspects. And I noticed in Max in Well Done Books, his review, he pointed this out, and I definitely agree. Like, you could blink and miss the fact that like a key important character was dead and, you know, never gonna be seen again. And that happened to me. I won't say who, but there's a character who dies, and I swear to God, the next 30 pages I was like, why isn't this character shown up? And then I went back and flipped through, and there was just one line stating that he had died. I'm not saying, of course, that with every aspect of a book, an author needs to like emotionally just like badger you over the head, but it just felt very strange what she would put an emphasis on. So overall, I would not say not to read this book because overall the reviews are just glowingly positive. I worded that terribly, but overall the reviews are all pretty much 4 and 5 stars. I've seen very, very, very few negative reviews, but for me, I just did personally have a lot of trouble getting through this book. I'm not saying I wouldn't read from this author again because I did love a lot of aspects of it, but overall, I'll admit I was kind of disappointed just because I was looking forward to it so much. So if you've read Pachinko, please let me know what you thought about it, and if you have any other recommendations for these kind of familial sagas, kind of following families through time, please let me know because they are kind of one of my favorite types of books to read. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye.